Hello, hello, hello. I am your androgynous android game show host from the future, Nathan Blades, and welcome to another episode of the Tabletop Mentorship Program Speaker Series, where we invite our fabulous and talented folks from the tabletop industry to share their insights and answer your questions, all in roughly 1 hour. This afternoon, I have our fantastic guest, writer, podcaster, and live streamer, Ruel Gaviola. But before I welcome him to the show, I'd like to say thank you to our sponsor of the show, Jeff Engelstein and New Voices in Gaming. The New Voices Scholarship helps innovative and diverse people new to the tabletop gaming industry with funding or for admission and travel to events like the Tabletop Network Conference. You can find out more about New Voices in Gaming at newvoicesIngaming.org. I would also like to say thank you to our fantastic patrons. Thank you very much to Eric Reese, Curtis Fry, and Angela Belsol for your fantastic support. If you would also like to support the Tabletop Mentorship Program, you can go to patreon.com/Tabletop Mentorship Program. Link in the video description and in chat right now to show your support. Right, fantastic. With our props and big ups out of the way, everyone, please give a warm welcome to Ruel Gaviola. Hello, hello, hello. You are currently muted, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I'm a total professional. I come on here all the time with my mics muted. Thank you, Nathan, for the wonderful introduction. I want to ask you, you are in the future. How's the future looking, my friend?
Oh, I must say I am from a parallel universe future where some of the, let's say, interesting decisions made in this timeline haven't quite happened. So it's a bit more comfortable. We invented time travel for one thing, so we're able to visit. But it's nice because I get to meet such wonderful creatives such as yourself.
Thank you. And I was hoping you would say, like, in the future Ruel would have hair that's as beautiful as Nathan's hair in the future. I would love that very much, my friend.
Your frohawk is astounding in the future. So please tell me all about yourself, Ruel, and all the fantastic things that you do.
Thank you, Nathan. I am a board gamer. Friends, you can find me all over the interwebs. I got into the hobby hardcore into the hobby about 5 years ago through, the aptly named Pandemic board game 5 years ago before it became a scary real thing. And from that moment on, I dove into YouTube videos, watching, like a lot of us do, watch Will Wheaton's Tabletop. And that just got me into that, got my wife into the hobby as well. I'm more hardcore than she is, but she still owns the longest winning streak between us. We got the game Ticket to Ride about a month after I got into the hobby, and she defeated me, Nathan, 7 times in a row. And I always I still can't believe it. And she is, in our home, the Ticket to Ride champion. So shout out to my wife, Michelle. After that, so I was a writer. I was a technical writer for many years. That's where my training was in, and I worked for the aerospace industry, the military industry, and other industries as well for some startups. And when I got into the board game hobby, I found a little website called I Slay the Dragon, and they were a tabletop-based website reporting news, and they did a lot of reviews. So I took over their news column. They put out a call. I submitted some pieces. They liked it. So I started writing the news column for them. After about 6 months or so, I started writing reviews, and that was really such a wonderful experience. And I had very good mentors coming up to throughout my career here. From I Slay the Dragon, I was able to land a gig with Geek Sundry. Yeah, and that is really what propelled me to where I am today. I'm very thankful and grateful for the mentors I've had there, from Rob Manuel, Terry Latorco, and many others. They helped me, guide myself as a writer in the board gaming and tabletop space. And that led me to a really fantastic opportunity. Terry emailed me one day out of the blue. It's like, Ruel, how would you like to go on in front of camera? I'm like, yeah, sure. I never tried anything like this before, but I'm the type of person, I will try anything at least once, and I'm like, you're going to pay me to play a game on YouTube with Becca Scott on Game the Game? I couldn't sign up fast enough, Nathan. I was like, I'm there. So that led, I was on there and we had a great time. Becca was the best host, just a wonderful person. And that led to more opportunities on Game the Game. And then I had opportunities with Renegade Game Studios. And finally, the pandemic hit last year. Every studios closed, couldn't do anything. That's when I said to Michelle and my daughter Lauren, our daughter Lauren, I said, will you two play games with me online? Let's live stream a game on Facebook Live. They're like, yeah, sure. So we brought our family game night to Facebook Live, and that about a month later, we did a month straight game every night. And after that, we moved it over to Twitch, and we rebranded it as Tabletop Tonight. Been doing it for over a year now, and because of that show, I've had a lot of wonderful opportunities. And one of them, actually, if y'all notice, this isn't my house. This is a hotel room in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm out here shooting a video for a board game company right now. We wrapped up the shoot earlier or late last night. It's going to be awesome. And because of the things I've been doing in board games, I've had this wonderful opportunity to work with amazing, talented people. So that's like my origin story, Nathan. That's how I'm here. And I am grateful to the Tabletop Mentorship Program for the opportunity to talk about a topic that's very personal to me. And it's very much something that I've been dealing with my whole life, but I just became aware of it because of board games. And that's my colorblindness. And so that's my origin story. And we're going to go here. And what this whole thing is about, friends, is making games more colorblind friendly. Okay. And this is, again, a topic very near and dear to my heart because I am red-green colorblind. So that's where someone with eyes like mine, I see differently. Not everyone sees the same. I've got glasses and I've got issues differentiating between red and green. It's, there's different types of colorblindness. I also have trouble with blues and purples. Other people have similar issues. They may have blue-purple. They may have red-green. But there are, let me see if I can pull this up on my screen. There are 1 in 12 male gamers. Okay, yeah, 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women are colorblind. So the chances that you've played a game with someone who's colorblind are immense, right? And I am one of them. More likely than not, everyone watching, you've played a game with someone that's colorblind or has some type of vision issues besides colorblindness. So along with, we're focusing on colorblindness because that's the one near and dear to my heart. But I do want to talk about how vision issues in general can, how we can deal with that and how we can make games better. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the statistics. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
No. Just to remind everybody that after this fantastic presentation, there will be a Q&A section with our fabulous guest today. So if you have any questions, do please add them into chat or think about them and bring them up at the Q&A section at the end, because we are here to answer your questions as well. Now, I'm going to go and vanish and let you go and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, folks. Yeah, please post those questions in chat, and we'll be happy to deal with them towards at the end of the presentation. But and also, I want to just point out again: 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women are colorblind. So the chances are you play games with someone who is colorblind or even has other vision issues. So we look at the stats, and that tells us right off the bat there are a lot of people that are affected. And what we're looking at today, we're looking at some of the bigger issues here. What is the gaming experience like for colorblind players? I'm going to be playing a game differently because of my eyes, right, than perhaps you. And and that relates to a lot of different things as well. Like you have your personal experiences, there are so many different factors we bring to the table, right? Obviously, I know my family. We play games, we know each other. But, when you go to, say, a public meetup, we're going to be having those again, right? As, everyone, please get your vaccinations, be safe out there. We will eventually get to the point where we can do public game nights again, right? Here in the U.S., the numbers are okay, depending on what state you're on, but that's a whole different topic. Let's talk about open game nights where you're going to meet other people. What are the experiences like for the colorblind players, right? And how can it be improved or changed? For me, that's the most important part of this presentation. This is why we're here. How can we improve this? How can we change this experience for the better? Okay. And so we're going to be discussing better practices and methods, that publishers, designers, and players can use to create games that are more accessible and more approachable for colorblind players, right? Again, we all bring our different experiences to the table. We have we all have our different origin stories, right? But we also have different vision issues or not, or health issues or whatever. So we want to be cognizant, and we want to be respectful of everyone at the table, because that's what it's all about, right? So let's continue here. So who am I? I'm Ruel Gaviola. We just talked about my background a little bit, my origin story. I do a bunch of stuff. I write, I podcast, I live stream, and I host and play games. I mentioned Becca Scott earlier. She's a lovely person and a friend. We also host Good Lookin Kickstarters over there on YouTube. But as you can see, I play a ton of games, and I produce content in a lot of various formats. You can find me easily on the internet. So I'm not a doctor. I am not, if you have colorblind issues, like, I'm not a doctor. I cannot treat you or anything, but these are my personal experiences. And also, I've done research. I've written articles on colorblind accessibility and approachability. So in that sense, I can give you an overview and recommendations on how we can improve games for everybody. Okay, so why make games colorblind friendly? That's the big question, right? I have a simple answer. I'm a simple man. I like simple answers. Don't you want more people playing your game? That's it. If you're colorblind, if you have colorblindness like myself, if you have a red and a green cube in your game, more often than not, I'd say 90% of the time, I will not be able to tell those cubes apart. Likewise, for players who have blue-purple colorblindness, they cannot tell those cubes apart. So right off the bat, if there's two colorblind players at the table, they have issues with the cubes, chances are they're not playing your game. And as a designer, as a publisher, a company, that's not a good thing. You want more people playing your games, right? The more people playing your games, the more chances are, number one, more people are having fun. And number two, let's just bottom line it. You're making more money as a publisher, designer. People like your game, and they can play it. There are more chances they're going to buy it, right? There are, just again, personal stories. There are games that I enjoy that I would never purchase because of the colorblind issues in them, because they're not friendly to my eyesight. And we'll talk about that as we move along here, because there are games that I do have that aren't colorblind friendly, but I make them colorblind friendly, and we'll save that for a little bit later. Okay, so that's the big question. That's the big answer. Make games colorblind friendly, because bottom line, more people are going to play your game, and they're going to purchase it, and they're going to share it with their friends and family. Okay, so what are some of the common mistakes that publishers make? I think there's, you can list a few, but I think the two big ones we really want to focus on here, in the terms of what we're talking about, is assuming all players see the same way, and not thinking about colorblind players until it's too late. Okay, so the first one is, as a designer, so I've worked with some designers. I've done some play testing. I've seen a lot of prototypes. I've seen a lot of prototypes just because of the work I do. I do Kickstarter preview videos and live streams. So I get a lot of prototypes. These are the games that are getting ready to be produced in the near future, but they're being kickstarted. They're getting funded. The mistake I see a lot is that a publisher or designer will hand off a prototype to me and other content creators in the space, and they'll just assume that everyone sees colors the same way they do. So they put out a yellow piece, a red piece, and a green piece without thinking about, oh, we need to make sure everyone can see this, right? And then, as they do this, right off the bat, they're losing an audience, a small part of their audience, but it's still significant, right? 1 in 12 men and then 1 in 200 women have those issues. So just imagine that you scale it up, you're losing a lot of customers and or fans that way. So, and then when they do think about it, let's say in the playtest design, either me or another playtester will say, hey, you know what, I like your game, or I have issues with this or that. But the colorblind, I can't tell the colors on this. Sometimes, and this is a sad thing I've seen where they've ramped up production already, And you never want to be caught there. Like you're producing things already, you're starting to scale up, you're making your board games, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the red and green are no good. Like players are mixing those up. What do you do at that point? Honestly, at that point, if you're scaling up and you're producing the actual physical games, you're probably in trouble. So that's a thing, because you didn't think about it early enough. Maybe again, it's through no fault. It may not be through any fault of their own. Maybe they just weren't thinking. It's not in their wheelhouse. It's not on their radar. That's unfortunate. What we're doing today, and what I try to advocate for, is let's make people aware of colorblind accessibility and vision issues as well. So that's the thing, not thinking about it until it's too late. That's when you're in trouble. So let's try to get them to think a little earlier in the game. So I want to point out some, I don't want to be too negative here, friends. So I want to point out games that are colorblind friendly. Why are these colorblind friendly? These are the 3 examples I've talked about in articles before, and they always leap out to me, because these, to me, are excellent examples of how games can be played by everyone, even those of us who have vision issues. Okay, Ticket to Ride. I had mentioned that in the opening with Nathan. We're talking about my origin story. Remember, my wife, Michelle, she owns a 7-game winning streak. Splendor and Lanterns. Those 3, they're very color heavy as far as the game mechanisms go. And you'll see my note, some games weren't always colorblind friendly. Now, I do know this for a fact. Ticket to Ride and Splendor, the early editions, they were not colorblind friendly. But thankfully, and this is another thing, publishers, listen to your audience, listen to your fans, people who are playing your games, and they did. They made them colorblind friendly. We'll talk about it in a second. Lanterns, I believe that was baked in. I'm not 100% sure. But these are the games that are colorblind friendly. I like to get things started off on a positive note here. I don't want to just complain about games that aren't colorblind friendly. So let's move on here. The first one is Ticket to Ride. Okay, Ticket to Ride. When this is a newer edition. This is the one that got me into the hobby, literally, along with the game Pandemic. Ticket to Ride. You'll notice here, this is a black train car. In Ticket to Ride, you are placing trains by playing. You're playing your cards. The different cards have different colors for the parts on the train, right? So you have black, yellow, a purple, a blue, a red, green. Normally, for me and others who share my type of vision issues, this type of game would be a nightmare, right? I would have a hand of cards, and I would be looking at them going, oh my gosh, I need to collect 5 black cards in order to place my trains on the map. Or I need 3 green cards to place my trains on the map. And I'm looking at these, I would be panicking inside, like, oh, I can't get these straight. And the hands are hidden information. So you don't want to ask your playing partners, oh, can you tell me if it's green or red? They would say, oh, okay, Ruel needs green. I'm going to take all the green cards. I don't know if that's how you play, but but yeah, it spoils the competitive aspect of it, unfortunately, if you're going to have to ask for help. So the early editions did not have this. If you'll notice, and I'm going to be talking about this a lot today, friends, because if you look at this card here, this particular black card on Ticket to Ride, it has a unique symbol. If you see in the corners of the card, it's like a little diamond shape. And then on the board itself, where the black cards would go for, you would put your trains there by turning a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black cards. They each have that icon there. Not only are the spaces black, but they also have an icon. So even though I may not see this color as black, maybe someone has trouble seeing this color, they see it as green or purple or whatever. It doesn't matter, because they can see the icon, and different colors have different icons. You can see in the upper left corner there, the yellow has a circle. So if I have a bunch of yellow cards in my hand and I cannot tell, oh, those are supposed to be yellow, it doesn't. It helps that having that little icon there. It's like, instead of yellow, now I am thinking that train needs circle cards. So then this makes it totally playable, so much easier, and I feel like it's such an easy fix that more and more designers and publishers should be incorporating. And I do see it. The trend, I feel, is going up. More people are not only like myself who are advocating. I'm not the only one. I am one of many out there saying, hey, publishers, let's deal with these issues here. Okay. Let's move on to the next game, Lanterns. Lanterns. one of my favorite artists, Beth Sobel. She's done Wingspan. She's done Viticulture. She's done Arboretum. Just amazing, amazing artist, right? One of my personal favorites. And I've been very fortunate to meet Beth, just a lovely human being. This game by Christopher Chung a few years ago, it's another gateway style game. So when I say gateway, just like Ticket to Ride, it's an easier way to get into the hobby. And it does sort of provide this starting point. So if you really enjoy this game, you may use it as gateway into like more complex games. But even if you don't, these games are great as well. I like to think of them. These are the ones that I bring to my family get-togethers, people who aren't gamers necessarily. Lanterns is another one that not only is it gateway and non-gamer friendly, but look at those different colors, friends. We have the white, we have the orange, the red, and the purple. To my eyes, I would be having, personally, I would have trouble with the red and orange, okay? But, and I thought this was genius on Beth's part. Look at the little lanterns. So you're placing these lanterns. It's like this lake, and, it's got the lanterns that you place. You're trying to collect sets of these lanterns in order to score points. And what you do is you place a tile. It's a tile laying game. So you're going to place tiles here on it's a shared tablet or board, just like Carcassonne. If you look at the tile itself, the white, the orange, the red, and the purple, they each have a unique symbol. So the cards themselves, the lanterns, it's really neat how Beth did this. The lanterns themselves are different. Like you see the white, it's a star, right? The red is like a triangle. Then the purple's a ball. And then the orange, I don't know. I don't know my shapes. Hexagon style. I'm not really sure. But not only are they different on the cards, but more importantly, on the tiles, they each have a different symbol. So if I can't zoom in on this, but just grab you can see these on BGG or just Google Lanterns, a board game. Each of these on the tiles have different shapes. So it's really important in the game too, because when you're matching shapes, you're going to get extra cards. And then whatever shape is facing you, whatever lantern's facing you in relation to the board, you're going to get those cards as well. Okay, so as you start putting together this beautiful lake full of lanterns, it expands and you're going to see all these different lanterns. If it was just strictly colors, I would be in trouble. But because of those amazing icons and beautiful icons, I can play this game. And it's actually one of my family's favorite games to play. Okay, so these are great examples so far. Let's take a look at another one. We were talking about Splendor. So I'm going to hydrate real quick. Friends, if you're watching this live, please hydrate with me. You know what? In fact, if you're not watching this live, if you're watching this later in the YouTube video, stay hydrated. Splendor. When I first got into the hobby a few years ago, I played Splendor for the first time. Fun fact, I didn't like it. I had trouble with it. And this is part of my origin story. I've been colorblind my whole life, but I've never had to really deal with it until I started playing board games. I've had my different jobs as a technical writer. I mean, let's just face it. I was on the computer screen a lot. I was doing like technical manuals where it wasn't like, hey, like a rule book where I need to, explain what's blue, what's red, or whatever. No, it was just very, very technical, very, very straightforward, not having to do with the arts. I played Splendor for the first time in an open game night, and I had trouble playing it because I had trouble matching the colors. Why? Because if you see this card now, this is the new version of Splendor. Each color has a different gem, right? You have the green, I believe that's an emerald, right? If you see that, it's sort of like a rectangle shape going face or skewed right side down. The red is a ruby, that's more of a squarish one. The black, is that an opal? I don't know my gems, my bad. And then you have the blue, that's sort of like an oval shaped. So the original version of Splendor didn't have those. It just had, see the ones on the right side here? It just had the ones in the color. And that's the version I played. And I was getting killed by the green and red because I literally could not tell them apart. So I would be trying to collect, the game is easy to learn, right? It's a really straightforward engine builder. And the engine builder is you collect gems in order to turn them in for more powerful gems or gems with points. You're trying to get 15 points. That's a combination of gems and other things. I'm not going to go deep into the game here. But because I wasn't able to differentiate between the green and red, I was at a huge disadvantage because I was getting cards that I may not have needed. Or, and this is what happened, I remember this distinctly in this game, I would play cards, a combination of cards, thinking I could get a point value card. And my opponent said, no, you have 2 greens and a red. You needed 3 reds. I'm like, oh, sorry, I couldn't tell. And of course that's embarrassing, for myself personally, but at the same time, I realized then, I came home to my wife and I talked to her. I was like, I'm colorblind, and it's going to be difficult for me to play certain games because I played, I don't remember if I told her the name of the game because I might have known it because it was the first time I played it. But at that point, I said, wow, I really got to be careful at the table. Like, what do I do? And thankfully, my friends, I eventually became friends at this open game night that I would go to. Eventually, I just said, hey, guys, hey, everybody, I have trouble seeing these certain colors, so certain games I may not be able to play. Or, I didn't really get into that. I basically said, could I get some help? And that's the thing, friends. If you're, there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's vision issues. Some people have them, some people don't, but there's no shame in asking for help. And that's, I think, true in all of life, right? Just say, hey, can y'all help me out with the red and greens or whatever? And I've got a great story with that. I'll bring that back up in just a second. So Splendor is another one that is a wonderful idea of how to make a game more accessible and approachable to those of us with vision issues. This one, Chai Tea for Two. I love this one. This was just on Kickstarter. We did a preview video for Dan and Connie. This I absolutely love. I wish all games could do this, and I know just from as I learn more about the industry, some of the behind the scenes stuff and some of the numbers, producing something like this is super expensive. So it may not be feasible for every company, but look at those colors. We have the black, the blue, the green, yellow, and so forth, white. Each color, you're in Chai Tea for Two. It's a 2-player game. You're actually making teas in order to ship around the world. Each color has a different type, not only an icon, but they're actually the components are actually cut like different tea leaves. It's so amazing. Look, green tea. I love green tea. I don't know about y'all. Give me a green tea with boba, I'm hooked up. The white leaves, the black leaves, the blue leaves. You can't really tell the yellow and the purple there, but those. It's just a wonderful example of how to make a game easier to play. Because that, as a designer or a company, don't you want that? Don't you want people? You want to lower the barrier of entry into your game, right? I don't know about y'all, how y'all feel. Like I do play complex games, but give me a game like this where it's easy to learn the rules, and it's also easy to differentiate the pieces and get it for me, it really helps you get the game to the table that much faster. And I don't know about y'all, but it's when you have a limited amount of time to play the games, whether it's because of work, school, or family or whatever, you want your time to be spent efficiently at the table. So if I don't have to fiddle around, it's like, oh, I don't know which one's red, which one's green. If I can just see something like this and just put it on the table, it's that much faster, and it's that much more likely that I'm going to pick this game over something that is not colorblind friendly. And publishers, y'all know you'd rather have your table on the table than you'd rather have your game on the table than sitting on a shelf collecting dust, right? Let's continue here. We've got another great example. Or actually, no, what we do, we're going to talk about games that are not colorblind friendly. So we started positive first. We're going to talk a little about negatives here. Games are not colorblind friendly, and I'm going to apologize to Steffenfeld for picking on him, but the Castles of Burgundy, the Castles of Tuscany, and the Carpe Diem. Too many of these games to list that are not colorblind friendly, but I am picking on Steffenfeld because twofold. I love Steffenfeld games. The point salad type games, classic Euro games, they're fantastic. I will always play them, but for whatever reason, I know it's not personal. I know, Stefan, you're cool. I know it's not personal against me or other my colorblind friendly, brothers and sisters out there, but man, the games that you make, they're not colorblind friendly at all. I mean, they're seriously, I've seen games like Castle Burgundy, Castle Tuscany, different shades of brown, different shades of green. That's like, oh, that's the worst nightmare. And unfortunately, because of that, your games aren't going to be played, aren't you're not growing your audience. You know, and publishers, that's what you want. You want to grow your audience, right? So make those games friendlier to people who have vision issues. Steffenfeld, I know I'm picking on him because because I love his games so much. I feel like I get the right to pick on him because I love his games so much. Castle of Burgundy, one of my top 10 games of all time. Castles of Tuscany is really good. I just played it the first time recently for a live stream, and unfortunately, it wasn't colorblind friendly. So what I had to do is before we went live, I had to, I took the time the night before to make it colorblind friendly. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's move on to a picture here of the Castles of Tuscany. If you have vision issues like I do, this is a nightmare. This is one part of the player board. You're going to take 3 of these. Each player takes 3 of them, randomly puts them together in front of them. That's what you play on. I'm like, whoa. What are colors at that point? It's just a nightmare. So what can you do to the games like this? Colorblind hacks. So see how the negative, it's negative, whatever. We're going to move on. We're going right back to the positive, folks. As a colorblind player, I'm going to make the games accessible to me. And how? Glad you asked, Ruel. You're going to create player aids, or I'm going to create player aids. I'm going to customize components. I'm going to change components. We're going to look at a few of these examples. So those of you who have vision issues, you may be doing this on your own already, but those that don't, I wanted to bring up a story about my friend Marlon. He's one of my local gaming buddies. He brought a game called Yamatai to the table one time. And someone had written a piece about this, and I referenced it. I forget the gentleman's name, but I referenced this in one of the articles I wrote about Yamatai being one of the worst games for anyone with vision issues. And when I played it, it was so true, and I was so like, Yamatai is supposed to be a great game. Thanks to my buddy Marlon, he took the time out on his own personal copy to do a hack where he made it playable for me, and I actually enjoyed the game a lot. It's a really terrific game, but I would not have been able to play it without a hack. Look at the Castles of Tuscany. This is my hack, friends. Every single color, these don't refer to the colors themselves, but they refer, I kept it in thematic, right? So the A's are for animals. Any of the animal tiles, I couldn't even tell you what color that is. Is it green? Is it yellow? I don't know. But I do know that tiles with the letter A, I have my player board labeled with the A, little sticker from, if y'all have Daiso Japan, it's like a dollar store from Japan. They have these little white stickers, and I just took my little marker and hand wrote the letters there. And I place them on the tile so that it'll help me when we play the game. Hey, if I have an animal tile, I put it on one of the A's. If I have a quarry tile, I know that I put it on the letter Q, and so forth, right? And so those decisions in the game are now made, it's easier for me to concentrate on them because I'm not trying to figure out, oh, is this orange? Is this red? No, I can just look at it. It's like, oh, okay, the animals go here. Now I can score the animal points. Okay, so that's one way to hack a game to make it more colorblind friendly. And here it is. We're just talking about those animals. There they are right there. There's the tiles. And there's the stickers I use. Little pack of stickers. It was maybe like 1,000 stickers, different colors. I use the white ones because it's easier for me to see when I write a letter on there. The A for animals. And look at that little tile right below the animal tile. It's the bonus scoring. So if I complete the animals first, I will get 4 bonus points. Before I look at that color, see the little eye there? I had no idea what that was. I was like, what color is that? But then again, if you're colorblind, you want to help, ask for some help. I asked my wife, Michelle, it's like, oh, can you help me sort these by color? And I looked at the rule book. I was like, oh, this color. And Michelle and I, oh, these are all animals. So then I put the little stickers there. So don't be afraid to ask for help, friends. Spirits of the Wild. This game is a 2-player game from Mattel. And you know, Mattel, they make toys. This game is so good. I'm so disappointed this is out of print right now. I'm hoping it'll come back in print because it's a wonderful game. Set collection. It's a 2-player game, very straightforward, very streamlined, but it's got great reviews on BGG and so forth. But if you look at those different colors, what we're trying to do is collect different stones, spirit stones, and some of them you want all different colors, some of them you want pairs of similar colors, and there's different patterns you're trying to collect. But some of those are really difficult to tell apart. If you notice right below the fox, I've got 5 different colors. Those two in the middle, I can't even tell what color they are, but I know that they're different because I have hand painted a little dot on one of them. That's all I need. Now I know, Ruel, that one's different. Don't try to match those. You want those to be unmatched. Okay, so that's I believe that's for the salmon that you're trying to meet up with in the spirit world. And by collecting different colors, then the salmon will help you out. In this case, I got 5 out of the 6. The salmon was happy. Not totally, not the happiest, but very happy because I did the different colors there. And again, that's, you know, now look at it, it probably wasn't even painted. I might have just used a marker there. So these are ways that you can totally hack your games, friends, if you're having trouble differentiating the colors. And I should say this too, it's not even people who are diagnosed colorblind like myself, but some of my friends who have 20/20 visions, depending on the lighting in the room or just the different shades that they may use, they sometimes don't have trouble telling these colors apart too. So it's not just us, you know, it's everyone. That's another thing I talk about to publishers all the time. Play test your games, obviously, but use different lighting and different situations. Like a game that I play at the pub, local pub or local bar or whatever, is going to be different than the lighting inside my home, right? Under, you know, in the dining room or whatever, in our game room. The lighting's going to be totally different. Colors will look different as well. So that's Spirits of the Wild, one little dot there. Aqualin. These are wonderful tiles, just like the game Azul. Just beautiful tiles. It's a set collection game. You and your opponent are matching sea animals. One player matches them by color. One matches them by type of animal. So here we have 4 crabs. When Michelle and I play, my wife and I play, the 4 colors there, I would never be able to play this game. But thanks to Michelle, we lined them up in different colors. And then the ones I could not tell apart, we put the white dots on them. Okay, so those I can tell those are going to be different. So I don't want to match those when I'm playing the color side. Obviously, when I'm playing the animal side, it's easy. Hey, I got 4 crabs, match them up. But if I want all like pinks or whatever, then I need to look at, you know, does it have a white dot or not? Excuse me. So that's Aqualin. Book of Villainy. This is a game that's just funded on Kickstarter. I wanted to bring this up because along with colorblind accessibility and approachability, and those of us who have trouble with our vision, these type of things make a huge difference. This is a player aid. The designer for Tessa Elise and their team over there, Gold Seal Games, they put together a player aid. You've seen these in other games, but the thing is, I don't see these enough in games. If I could have my way in every Kickstarter game or any board game that's being published, I would rather have a player aid than fancy bits. Don't get me wrong. I love metal coins. I love upgraded components. I love all the pretties, right? The bling, the blang, the bling bling, whatever y'all kids say these days, the bling bling, right? That's fine, but give me a good player aid any day of the week plus twice on Sunday, because this makes the game easier to play. Again, it's lowering the barrier to entry into the game. Look at those symbols. I know if I see the little pen on a paper, I am writing a chapter in this game. We're not going to talk about the game itself, but I know if I see that symbol, I do that action. Or the one with the hand, it looks like a little gear right above it on the bottom there. Gain a gadget. I know that, and so forth. It makes the game so much easier to play rather than having to sit there. Oh, what's this color mean? Or, oh, what do I do on my turn again? Or, oh, what's this say on this tile? What does that mean? Player aids, friends, they are a lifesaver. Viticulture Essential Edition. Looks like a spreadsheet, right? It's a spreadsheet. That's not the game. This game, I made a personal spreadsheet. If y'all can see it there, there's different tabs along the bottom. I love Viticulture. One of my top 5 games of all time. Worker placement, center winery, perfect game. I enjoy the occasional glass of wine. Even if you don't, though, you probably like this game if you're in a worker placement. It's just a beautiful setting. We talked about Beth Sobel, the artist, earlier. It's another game that she illustrated. Just beautiful, a very placid, very calm game. But the colors on the cards themselves. You play a thing called Summer Visitors because, you know, if you own a winery, you want visitors, right? They come in the summer, they come in the winter. They are color coordinated with the action that you may do. And I was having trouble with those. Because the cards are a little small and the colors sort of blended, and it was difficult for me. So Michelle and I, we sat down one night. I asked her, I'm going to type in all the names of each card, what they do, and if you could help me find what colors go where, it would make the game so much easier. So I pretty much know these cards. You know, when I play the game, it's really easy for me to play now. But when I was learning the game, this was a lifesaver. I would literally just have the this open on my phone, and I would just look at my spreadsheet. Oh, I'm going to play the agriculture, or I mean the let's say the contractor card. I look at my phone, I know exactly what their action is. Rather than asking my opponents, hey, what's the contractor do? Then they know that I have that. So I actually posted this on BGG, BoardGameGeek.com, if you're not familiar. It's a wonderful resource that people use. And there's a million of these out there for so many different games. I've done this one for Viticulture. Thanks to Jamie Stegmeyer, the owner of Stonemeyer, for shouting me out. He shared this with his with the gaming community. It was great. I'd love to see more of these out there. It's just another way to make games easier to play. So, best practices. As a publisher, designer company, start early. Start early. That means, remember we're talking about how game designers companies come in too late sometimes with these type of things. Start early. The second you start thinking about a game, designing a game, think, hey, how can a player with vision issues play this? If they have vision issues, what can we do to make this game easier? When I'm making a game, or I have friends who are game designers. Another friend of mine, local friend, Daryl, he actually took it on as a challenge, which is great. I was so surprised when he did this. He said, hey, Ruel, I'm going to start designing games. Every single game I design is going to make it colorblind friendly. I'm like, Daryl, you're my best friend, man. That's awesome. And what he does, he takes some of the things that I'm sharing today, and he incorporates it into his designs. So as soon as a game is being designed, make it approachable for colorblind players. We've talked about this a lot today. Are you using a color when an icon could be used, right? Think about a standard deck of cards. You have red and black. You have diamonds and hearts, spades and clubs. And just pretend they had to be, one was red, one was green. You could not tell, and you couldn't tell them apart. They're different shades. You could still look at the symbols. I know the spade looks like this. I'm not going to, a spade. I should have had a picture here. A club, looks a certain way. A heart, obviously. Hey, look, it looks like a heart. And a diamond, right? You can still play any game, even though those colors would not matter because you have the icons. So that's a huge thing we've been talking about today. And I think it's the easiest way. There's all kinds of ways to make your game accessible. I think that's the easiest way, is with the icon. Okay, and you start early. So continue on best practices. Unique icons for each color. We've just talked about that. Text for each color. So not only do you talk about, hey, this red, it has a diamond. You could actually, put text there. It says diamond. How easy is that? As long as you know how to read, obviously it may not be universal because not everyone, speaks English, which is my native language, but, it could help if you have a translator as well, different languages. Hopefully your game gets big enough, gets published enough where you can have multiple languages that are represented. Unique components for each color. This is interesting. So different components, rather than having, hey, I have a red apple, a green, lettuce or whatever, have their unique components. Have an actual apple. Have an actual lettuce so you could feel or you can see, hey, the greens these look different. Again, I understand money-wise, budget-wise, it may not be feasible, but that's an option, obviously for companies that have a little more funding behind them. And here's something easy, hopefully easy. Increase the size of the text or icons. I was talking about viticulture, how those cards, the visitor cards, they're small. They're like, again, ticket to ride size. Like they're little, I believe they're called standard Euro size. They're little cards. Just increase the text or the icons. Make it easier for people to see across the table, right? Don't forget, like a lot of times nowadays, people are playing on these bigger tables, a lot of the custom tables, right? Just that are built for board gaming. Make it easier on us. Again, for all of us, not just those with vision issues, but if, you got some, maybe dimmer lighting at the pub. I know me, if I'm at a pub and and I'm trying to look across the table at a card, it may not be the easiest. Even if there's no color involved, I just need to read something. Just increase the size. Yeah, you may lose a little bit of the art or something, but I feel like that's a fair trade-off. if you're going to make your game played by more people, that's ultimately what we want, right? Moving on here, let's go to some examples here. So increase approachability, Fossil Canyon, another game that was recently funded on Kickstarter. We did a Kickstarter preview. I thought this was an ingenious way of making a game more accessible and approachable. This is actually the victory point track. So you have your cards there. It's a dinosaur game. It's about collecting fossils of dinosaurs. Each player has a museum they're trying to open, and by having the bigger and more popular dinosaurs, you're going to score more points. And I love what they did here. Look at the score track. There's 2 players here. You go across, and every time you collect a dinosaur by turning in the cards, you're going to get a piece of a jigsaw puzzle that represents the size of that animal, right? So the T-Rex, of course, is the biggest one. You have, your Brachiosaurus, your Brontosaurus, your Triceratops, etc. You place a piece of that puzzle next to your museum, and as you're adding them, they go longer and longer. And rather than having to, I'm not that great at math, folks. I will have to bust out the calculator. Rather than doing that, you're just adding pieces of the puzzle. You could immediately look at this puzzle that's going across your board. This is your score track for the game. Who's in the lead? Just look at the top players in the lead because their puzzle extends the furthest. I love this. I've never seen this in the game before. That's why I'm so excited about it. And the game is fun. It's a very light family game. But look at that score track. I want to see more designers use that. This is, to use the old cliche, it's thinking outside the box, like literally, right? I've never seen a score track like that. I would like to see that more. It made the game super easy for, again, not even color issues. We're talking about someone that doesn't like to do math, like myself. That was never my subject. But someone that it's even the younger gamers, perhaps their math skills aren't up to par, or they just want to play the game for the dinosaurs and stuff. As the adult, whether it's a parent or guardian or whatever, you can play the game with your younger gamers because they won't have to add all these numbers, because the numbers themselves is like, hey, the Triceratops brings in 25,000 visitors a year to your museum. The next one brings 50,000. That might be a bit much for a younger math student, right, or a younger gamer. You just put these puzzle pieces out there. Oh, I know who's in the lead precisely at that moment just by looking at that. I gotta hydrate again. Okay. Moving on. Best practices. We're continuing here. Playtest with all types of players, including colorblind players. It's so easy to, you want to set up a playtest session. That's great, and that's obviously a huge part of any game's development. But why not include more people, right? And I'm not just talking about colorblind players, but can you playtest outside of your normal playtest groups? Again, these might be tough to do certain times, especially with the pandemic now. But I feel like it may be one thing that the pandemic taught us is Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, all these great platforms online. I saw a lot of publishers using it, and they're using it now, even as hopefully the pandemic's getting better. But they're using it now as a way to connect players and playtesters, especially. It's like, hey, playtest my game. I was just actually on a call the other day with a local game designer. He said, "Hey, Ruel, you got like 10 minutes? Can we meet on Discord?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem, Nate." So we met. He has this really fun filler game. It took him 2 minutes to explain it. We played around. It took 3 minutes. Great. But he was asking him what colors. I gave him feedback. He immediately incorporated on Tabletop Simulator, the designer edition or whatever, the designer interface. He immediately pressed a button and changed the colors. And I was like, Nate, I can totally see the game. We played the game. And it was a lot of fun. So like that, you play tests with all kinds of players, people that have vision issues, but use those tools that are available to you, friends. Tabletop Simulator, it's out there. Use it, okay? And feedback, what I was just talking about with Nate. He asked me exactly what I felt about how can I see the colors? And I told him exactly what I was like. Hey, maybe these colors are a little too similar. Can you change them out? And he did it on the fly in Tabletop Simulator as we were testing it. But you can also watch how players react to the components' colors. If they're, some of us may be a little shy, and maybe you're not comfortable sharing about some of the issues you're experiencing. But look at the players' reactions. Are they having trouble with certain decisions that you feel like, hey, maybe I can help make this easier for them by making the colors a little more distinguishable, right? Are they spending more time trying to figure out what the color is than actually playing the game, right? So if the designers, as you're looking for these, looking at play testers, you can see the reactions and you can tell like, oh, they're spending way more time in the rule book or looking at something else rather than just playing the game, right? So that's a big one there. Best practices, folks. These are the things that we're recommending to designers, publishers, and so forth who can ways that they can make their games more approachable. Okay, more resources. There's a lot of resources out there. I've only included 3 because otherwise y'all know how to use Google, right? Go on Google, just type in colorblind resources for gamers. I've included 3 here. We've got apps, we have podcasts, we have websites. We now have this here on the Tabletop Mentorship Program YouTube channel. One app is the Chromatic Vision Simulator. Download this on the phone. I believe it's Android and iOS. If not, there should be an iOS equivalent. This actually turns your smartphone, my smartphone, into my pair of eyes. That if you take this program, put on your phone, and you basically scan or look at either a piece of text or a component or whatever, it'll show you what it looks like to a colorblind person. Okay, and you can toggle. There's switches you can toggle. It's like, oh, let's see what happens for red, green, or whatever, and then you can tell if your colors or icons or whatever look too similar, and then you can change appropriately. So that's one app of many. You can go out there. Same thing on websites. Actually, podcasts. I included one episode of Playability. Playability is actually not a colorblind or vision specific podcast, but they talk about games that they want people to play more games, so therefore the game playability, right? What are the different issues out there that prevent people from playing games? Where different type of socioeconomic factors, like are you able to play games because of this factor or that factor? This episode I've linked here actually talks about, it's episode 11, actually talks about what we're talking about today as far as colorblind accessibility and what can designers do to make them make games easier for people to play. How can we lower the barrier of entry into playing games? And finally, we talk about websites. People like us, they are on a hiatus right now, but a gentleman named, I believe, is Dr. Michael Herron. He talks a lot about accessibility in games, and not just colorblind issues, but he talks about just all kinds of different factors that come into play when you're trying to get games to the table. But I actually quoted him in the article I wrote on Geek Sundry about colorblind accessibility. I talked to him, interviewed him for the article, and he gave some great resources, great tips. I've talked a lot about him here today, but use Google. You can find stuff out there, friends. And conclusion, we're going to wrap it up. Why make games more colorblind friendly? I'm going back to the start. I'm repeating here. Don't you want more people playing your game? That's the basic. That's the crux of it, right? You want more players at the table having fun, enjoying this beautiful hobby we have, where we can sit across the table and enjoy some time, because that's what it's all about. It's having fun. And if you make your games more colorblind friendly using some of the tips that we included here, you're going to have more people, bottom line, buying your games, playing your games, and spreading the joy of the board game tabletop hobby. So that's what I'm here for, friends. I really want to just encourage you as designers and companies to make the games more colorblind friendly, but also as players. Myself personally, I'm so invested in this because of my vision issues. I want more players playing games and having fun and enjoying our hobby. So thank you. Hi, Nathan.
Hiya. Oh my God, that was an absolutely fantastic presentation. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Can everybody in the chat give a fantastic round of applause for Ruel? That was such a great presentation. Yes, we have time for questions. Yes. I have a couple questions myself. Looking at the chat, Looker Sylph says, I feel as though cost is the driving factor in the simple shapes, different colors epidemic. You did show earlier that really, really beautiful green tea board game with like lots of different entirely woodcut parts that were also unique shapes. But I think you did a really wide representation of examples of different types of, even down to like the Ticket to Ride's just additional shapes on top of the colors and combining those together.
Yeah. That's a great point by Lick Yourself. The simple shape's different. Cost is a big thing, and I want to make that clear. Like, I'm not taking any company to task. I understand it's a business. You have to make the decisions that are right for you. But my thing is, as long as we can get people talking about this, let's start a conversation. Are there ways that are cost effective that we can do in order to make these games more playable by players like me who have these issues? So I feel like, again, those different icons, I think that's I feel like that's the number one way to make these games accessible. And I understand some games you need certain things or certain colors. That I get it, but that I feel like is a way that we can get more games to the table in this way.
We definitely want to see those kind of things on the ground floor, especially when a lot of board games are now kind of produced via Kickstarter. We want to see those accessibility concerns like in the top. We don't want to see them in a stretch goal. We want them in like day one and costed for that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the stretch goals. No, we want it should be part of the experience from the get go. And as as I was saying, let's start this early. Let's get in. Right when you start thinking about the game, let's think about these things, and then hopefully it'll be baked into the design, and we don't have to panic at the last minute. Oh yeah, if we raise another 20,000, we can do. No, let's get it from the get go, friends.
Philip Pedaveze, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, said, I feel like making different colors have different components / icons is also a great way to make the theme even stronger.
Yeah. Oh, that is such a great point. Yeah. Tie it into the theme. It's, I've been, I tried not to abstract these things like, oh, we need to do this, that. No, tie it into the theme. That whole, like, we're talking about viticulture, one of my favorite games. That's a wine. You're making wine in a winery, and then it was tough for me to, play it but I had my little spreadsheet and I could play it now. It's like, rather than trying to figure out, oh, purple means that or green. No, I can say, oh, well, the cultivator needs to do this by planting the vines at this particular time, so forth. So keep it. That's a great point. Let's keep it on theme. And you can totally work this into your theme as well and make it approachable and accessible.
For sure. The question that I would like to ask you, and then I have a cheeky bonus question if my overlords give me time. So you talked a little bit about Splendor and how it went from a version that wasn't accessible to its future reprint, which did actually kind of take those into design and actually reflected what Fuller was saying about making the theme stronger by giving those colors big shiny gems, right?
Yes.
Are there other games that you can think of that were updated to be more colorblind friendly in future releases?
Oh yeah, that's great. I picked these 3 examples. These are ones that really that stood out the most to me as far as being colorblind friendly. And that's Philip. You helped me. I just put that together. Yeah, Splendor was actually more beautiful with those gems on it. So yeah, great point. Other games that are like that. Oh my gosh, all the Ticket to Ride series was like that. They started with just the colors, then eventually added in the icons. Splendor was the same way. Wow. I'm drawing a blank here. I'm going to blame it on my travel brain right now because I'm in different time zones. But follow me on Twitter. I'll tell you this, friends, and Philip especially. I'm going to find examples. I will tweet it. When I find examples, I will tweet photos of those games on my Twitter feed as soon as we wrap this up.
Nice. You can find a link to Ruel's Twitter in the video description.
Nice.
A cheeky bonus question, as somebody who streams board games, and I find streaming tabletop games of all the genres collectively something I find really interesting. And the thing that I found over time is that some games, especially in my wheelhouse, it's tabletop games, but as well as board games, some games actually, whether intentionally or not, work really well as experiences for a third party, and then some don't work well as a third party experience like at all. In your experience of kind of playing board games, which one can you give me an example of one that actually worked like super well for like a streamed format, and then maybe if you did run into one that didn't work for a streamed format at all?
Oh, I love this question. This is so good, Nathan. So I find this is so funny, like, we have the different complexities games. You have the really super hardcore strategy games. You have the lighter family games. The ones I feel work the best for a stream are the ones that the audience can interact with the streamers themselves. So we played a game called Herd Mentality on stream. We've also played a game called Blank Slate. These are party games where it's a word game. You have like a one-word clue, and everybody writes down a word, and then you reveal at the same time. You get points, blah, 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 based on that. It works so well on stream because chat can participate. Like if I say, okay, blank this, and then you write your clue, we all show the clue at the same time, and then chat can participate. And hey, I just gave chat 1 point. I've got 3 points. Y'all got to catch up to me now. Blah blah blah. Those are really fun. Any type of party game like that. And then the ones that are tougher to stream are the ones where I play games like this. I'm just trying to think about my move. That no one wants to watch me do this. So I feel like the deeper strategy games, it can be done on stream, but the audience, you need to prep your audience. Like, I'm going to be playing a deeper strategy game. I may not always look at chat, and I'm going to be thinking about just as long as you set the expectations. And that's why whenever I go live, I say, hey, my family and I or my friends and I are going to play this game. People can sort of decide, hey, I've heard about that game, and I'm curious about it. It may not be the most lively game, but if you're curious about the game, you can see it played, and hey, this is why I'm strategizing. This is why I'm making this certain decision. Yeah, so it's a different experience, but the party games for sure are the funnest to play on the stream because it's so immediate. The chat is so interactive, and they're engaged, and they're eventually invested in it because they can take a turn too from the comfort of their home.
For sure. All right. Yes, this has been such a fantastic show. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to go into our wrap up. But everybody say thank you once again to Ruel for that fantastic presentation while we do the end of the show. Excuse me. Hello. What a one last message from Phila. Maybe games with fun RNG can also be good for streaming. I can actually answer that as well, because I have recently been getting really enamored with video games that use tabletop ideas as part of their design. There's a lot of really interesting roguelikes that do that. For example, Slay the Spire is a really good example, and Dicey Dungeons. I have been having a time with Dicey Dungeons doing both the mental math of working out the probability management and what Ruel was saying about the kind of moments where I'm like, okay, now I'm supposed to be entertaining, but I need to think about this really carefully or I will die right now, and that will be worse for me than if I think about getting this right. So yes, the thrill of successes and losses and the rolling of the dice and the spinning of the wheel is some of those fantastic moments to kind of get you connected with your audience. But enough about me rambling. This has been the Tabletop Mentorship Program Speaker Series. We have 2 more in this season that are coming up. The next one that we don't currently have a graphic for, but you will be seeing as we promote it on Twitter and on our social media, on August 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern or 8 p.m. BST, if you're a Brit like me. Our next fabulous guest will be Jeon Shim and her talk, Emotional Storytelling in Role-Playing Games. Which is going to be really, really exciting. As I say, tabletop RPGs is my particular wheelhouse, so it is actually really fantastic to go and have a chat with other people from that world. But once again, I have been your androgynous android host from the future, Nathan Blades. That was the indomitable and beautiful Ruel Gaviola, and this has been the Tabletop Mentorship Program. We hope you have all had a fantastic time, and we will see you again in the future. Goodbye.